All right, students, Chapter 10, the first section of Chapter 10 has a lot of information in it, and some of it's pretty heavy economic information, and so I'm going to break it into two parts. I think it'll be easier to digest. So when Washington takes office, he's well aware that a lot of the things he does are going to be watched heavily because, well, he's the first president. And so everything he does is going to set a precedent. That's not the same word. Notice I have it highlighted down here. It's precedent. That means a tradition concerning the country's future, the way he's sworn in, the way he behaves. The fact that we call our president Mr. President is because Washington insisted on it. They wanted to know how, well, okay, so you're going to be our president, not our king. So how shall we address you? Should we call you Your Highness, Your Excellency? How shall we call you? And he suggested, let's just say Mr. President. And to this day, that's how the president is referred to almost immediately upon election. I will tell you that almost even right now, Donald Trump is being referred to that way by even his closest friends. Everyone except his immediate family is referring to him as Mr. President. It is simply a term of respect. I read a biography of President Clinton, and one of his closest friends who had been with him since he had very started in politics, they were watching election returns come in the night of the election, and he went to deliver some of the results to President Clinton, who was just then Bill Clinton. And he said, "Congratulations, Mr. President." And he said, "Oh, you don't have to call me that. I'm just Bill to you. We're friends." And he said, "No, you will always be Mr. President from now on." It's that serious. That is how you address this person from that time forward. You call them Mr. President unless you are immediate family. You call them that. All right. Let's talk about the cabinet. Now, the cabinet are the closest advisors to the president, and we've spoken of this before. The president picks these people, and the Senate confirms them. The Senate almost always confirms these picks for the president because regardless of party, everyone in the country feels like the president should have the people he feels he or she wants for advisors. And so these people are not, it's not an automatic rubber stamp, but pretty much the Senate will give the president whoever he or she wants for cabinet advisors. Washington only had a few. Congress set up 3 departments and 2 offices within the executive branch. Washington picked Jefferson to be the Secretary of State. He was a natural. Jefferson was brilliant. He spoke several languages. He was at ease in European countries, and so he was a natural to be this person. Secretary of State handles our relationship with foreign countries. The president cannot be all over the place all the time, especially back in those days. And so if you need a problem solved, this is the person you send. Alexander Hamilton was chosen to be Secretary of the Treasury, and that person manages the nation's money. Henry Knox was Washington's pick to be the Secretary of the Department of War, which is the current day Department of Defense. We have Fort Knox in Kentucky, named after Henry Knox, which I know because, of course, Mrs. Butts grew up in Kentucky, so she knows that. And that's where we have part of our nation's gold is deposited there in Fort Knox, Kentucky. We have an Attorney General, and that person was Edmund Randolph. And we still have all of these people. All of these people still are in the president's cabinet, plus many more. All right? Now, we have a court system set up at this point in time also, and you'll need to know this Judiciary Act of 1789 for a test. And this sets up the Supreme Court and other lower courts. Now, the states get to keep their own courts, but now we're going to say that the federal courts can overturn their rulings, and the Supreme Court is going to be the final authority on all of it. And John Jay was chosen as the first Chief Justice. If you remember, he was one of the Federalists, of that first group of Federalists with Madison. So he's an important person you need to know. First Chief Justice, John Jay. And we've talked about the Bill of Rights, but I bet you didn't know that there were originally 12 of them. So Madison introduced originally 12 of them, but 10 of them were ratified, and they became known as the Bill of Rights. And they responded to the Declaration of Independence and the grievances in them, or in it. And we talked about that in class and did a little matching activity with that. All right. And again, this is review material. So the Bill of Rights protects individual rights of people, such as speech, religion, assembly, petition, and things like that. And some of the amendments deal with the rights of people accused of crimes. In fact, quite a few of them do. So obviously, the people who wrote them, Madison, who wrote the Bill of Rights, and the people who were around him, felt like dealing with juries and dealing with being accused of crimes, we had to have this just right. So it was important that several of these, of the first 10 amendments, deal with just that. And then, of course, the 10th Amendment was put in there because he's hoping that that's going to protect the states' rights and protect Americans against a national government that gets too powerful. All right. The new economy is in a shambles. We've spoken of that before. Washington focused mostly on foreign affairs and military matters, and he leaves the financial end of it to Hamilton, who is on his own brilliant. I mean, these people were very smart. The problem is that the new country owes money to everyone, to other countries, to private citizens, to everyone. There's money owed in every place. I've got, a little piece of our own money now with Hamilton's little picture on it. He'll always be on our money. Now, Hamilton has a plan. His plan, he needs to borrow money. Now, you'll see my little snarky commentary, oh good, we're going to borrow money. But the fact is the new baby country needed to borrow money. It's the only thing they could do. But they have to be able to show that they can pay it back. Because it's just like any time. So if you go to the bank and ask for a loan, they're going to look into your background. They're going to loan you money, but they're going to be sure you have a decent job or whatever, so that you're going to be able to pay the loan back. They're not going to give you a loan if you can't show that you can pay the money back over time. So in order to show the world that the United States is going to be good for any loan that they ask for, Hamilton proposes that the federal government should take over and pay off some of these debts of the states. So they're actually kind of caving to the states' problems. Because paying off the debts of the states is going to look good on the world stage, okay? It's going to help build national credit. And he's right about that. But the plan faces opposition. Congress agrees to pay the money owed to other countries because they see that that's important, but not to pay off the debts owed to American citizens, people like Chaim Solomon. Of course, good thing Solomon doesn't really want the money back. He'd like to have it back, but he doesn't have to have it. And so what Congress suggests is that they're going to have to pay these citizens back in bonds. Please understand you need to know what a bond is. So I'm going to explain it, and you need to get a grip on it and how it works. A bond is a promise to pay the debt back in the future. So what that means, it's like an IOU, all right? It means that the government is going to give these pieces of paper to citizens that say, we will pay the money back in the future. But some people can't wait forever to get their money, right? Okay, so that's fine. You're going to pay me back in the future, but, I kind of need the money back now. Like my farm has been ruined, or my plantation's been ruined, or my business has taken a hit through the war, and I kind of need the money to get restarted, okay? But bonds is sort of like an IOU. So especially soldiers or farmers want to sell the bonds, and they did so to people called speculators. All right, so now we've got the bonds changing hands. All right, so government gives the bonds to people it owes money to, the IOU. Okay, so then these people, they need the money now. So they sell them for actual money to other people. So pretend the bond is worth, I don't know, $1,000. So the government gives the IOU to Farmer Smith for $1,000. Farmer Smith says, I don't need this useless piece of paper for $1,000. I need the $1,000. The speculator comes along and says, alrighty, I can't give you $1,000, but I can give you $600 right now for the bond. Farmer Smith says, you know what, I'll take the money right now because I need it right now. So he sells the bond for $600 to a third party, the speculator. All right? So this is what the third bullet point says. Speculators buy at a low price in hope that the value will go up. Okay? And that's how the stock market works. All right? That's what you call speculation. I'll give you better, like with numbers and stuff in class on the smart board, but that's how it works. Now, at this late point in time, after many, many, many bonds had been given out to all the people that they owed money to, and then a lot of people had sold those bonds off for less than what they were worth, like I just said, I'm Farmer Smith. I sold my $1,000 bond off for $600. All right, I've sold that off. Now, at that late point in time, after this has gone on for a while, okay, Hamilton decides, But you know what? We're going to pay those things off in full now. We're just going to pay the full value of all of those because we can do this now. Now that's going to make who rich? The speculators. Because they bought these things very low price. I'm a speculator. I bought maybe, I don't know, 10 bonds for $1,000, but I bought them at $600. And now I'm getting paid off for $1,000 for all of them. Okay, so that makes the speculators rich, but leaves the original bondholders, those who had invested money and blood in the war, with much less. You can imagine that the regular people, the normal people out there that don't have a lot of money, that are just, regular, average class people, they're not real happy with this plan. Some of the strongest objection to any of Hamilton's plan came from the southern states because most of them didn't have much war debt and most of them had paid their war debt off. And the southern states were not happy with what was going on with Hamilton and his bonds and his speculation and all of that. And they don't want to pay for the rest of the country's war debt. All right, so how do we get around this? Southern states, we really want you to buy into this plan. We really want you to go ahead and give us your money and, we're going to go on with this bond thing. Well, here's how we get Washington, D.C. To get the southern states to support the plan, Hamilton says, how would you like the capital of our country to be in the South rather than in, say, Philadelphia or New York City? The capital of our very young baby country, of the whole country, will locate it in the South. And therefore, we have a carve-out of Maryland where we put Washington, D.C., where the capital is permanently located. So they were bought off by a piece of land, and that's how we get the place of Washington, D.C., being where our capital is. All right, the fight for a national bank. Hamilton also has Congress to create a national bank, the Bank of the United States. The bank's going to hold government funds and make debt payments. It's going to issue money to be used throughout the country, because at that time each state has its own money, and that's not good. And the bank is going to help make loans to start small businesses. Okay, but this isn't going to go smoothly for Hamilton. I'm going to stop here, and we're going to pick this up later, but this fight for a national bank, hint, is how political parties get started.